Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So, in the last class, we were studying till the 81st verse of the Vivekachudamani. These are the verses which deals with the subject of non-identification with the gross body, the sthula sharira, with which we identify ourselves as if that's our entity, that's our existence. To deny that, so that gradually through the disidentification with the various layers of non-self, which we identify as self, we go through those process of de-superimposition to ultimately realize that we are the self. So this process, that's the process of discrimination, discriminating the self from the non-self. And that's why this treatise has been given the name Vivekachudamani. So we have already entered the section where we find that Shankaracharya is giving various paradigms, various reasons to understand that why this cross body should never be identified as the self, and is clinging to this body, this gross body, this sthula sharira, is as if a spiritual suicide. So that's the idea which he will be going through the verses which we are going to study today. So let us start with the 82nd verse of the Vivekachudamani. What it is saying, Mokshasya Kangsha Yadi Vai Tavasti Tyaja Ati Durat Vishayan Vishangyatha Piyushavat Tosha Daya Kshama Arjava Prashanti Dantihi Bhajanityam Adarat. That if you have a craving for liberation, mokshasya kangsha yadi vai tavasti, that if you have the akanksha, the desire for moksha, for liberation, then what you have to do? Tyaja ati durat, vishayan vishangyatha, that shun the sense objects from a very good distance, as you would shun poison. Tyaja ati durat. Don't even go near it. Just the way when I see poison, I try to avoid it by all means. I won't even touch it. What to speak of consuming it? That even touching it may be the cause of my death. So, ati durat, even from a distance, we will be shunning the poison. In the same way, if we are the seekers of liberation, then the Vishaya Visha, the poison that is hidden in all the sense objects, one should be convinced about that and should shun them even from a distance. And what we have to culture, there are two things, something we have to shun and something we have to culture. So what we have to culture, Piyushavat. And just like nectar, Piyusha is the nectar, just like nectar, we have to culture Tosha, Daya, Kshama, Arjava, Prashanti, Danti. So these are the qualities which we have to cultivate. What are they? The virtues of contentment, Tosha, Santosha, Tosha, which means contentment. Daya means compassion. Kshama, forgiveness. Arjava, straightforwardness. prashanti, calmness, danti, self-control, bhaja nityam adara. We have to cultivate these things nityam, not by lips and bound, not because just based on my temperament. That today I am in the mood of practicing them, I practice, and then again I resort to my old way of living. No, not like that. It has to be nityam, constantly, assiduously, perseveringly. These are the qualities which we have to practice. Adarat. Adarat means not just like a monotonous practice, with full sincerity, with a full faith that these are the practices which are going to lead me to liberation. So, with this we have to cultivate them carefully and always. These are the qualities which we have to inculcate. So, what are these qualities? This first, that the ati durat word is very important. As when we come to the sense objects, it has to be shunned from a distance. This ati durat word is very important. In our day-to-day life, we will find that sometimes we develop a sense of confidence that I am sufficiently self-controlled. Even if I am near the sense objects, they cannot contaminate me. They cannot tarnish me. They cannot impure my mind. My mind is pure. Even if I'm in their presence, they in no way can affect me. This confidence is something which can be highly detrimental in our spiritual journey. That's why this ati durat word is very important. As if you remember, Sri Ramakrishna used to say that how careful you may be while residing in a room whose walls are painted with soot. The soot, in the olden days when you light the lamp when you light, which is encased, the light is encased in some glass case, you will find the black soots tend to develop on that glass case. Those are called the soots. So imagine if you paint the wall of a room with those soot. Now, however careful you may be, if you're residing in that room, you're bound to get tainted now or later. You're bound to get tainted, however careful you may be. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is indicating the same thing, that the Vishaya has to be shunned from a distance, because our mind, the subconscious mind, is already filled with all those latent impressions. It needs just a little suggestion to spark them up. Apparently, it may appear everything is calm. Sri Ramakrishna used to give another wonderful example. He used to say, that the so-called intellectuals, what's their mind is like? It's just like a shallow ditch. The water appears to be clean and very calm. You just have to stir it a little, and all the dirt, all the turgidity which is there just beneath that surface layer, as it's very shallow, immediately you will find they're all bubbling up. So our mind is like that. Sometimes we may feel, oh, it is very calm, but it is very shallow. Just beneath it, as the mind is not yet cultivated, it is full of those latent impressions, always waiting just to spring up with all its tendencies if it gets a little suggestion. So we shouldn't be very confident about our mind. As if you remember in the last class, we were relating to one of the incident in the life of Latu Maharaj, Swami Adbhutananda. He was one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. He came from a very remote village of Bihar. And he belonged to a family of this family of cultivators. They used to cultivate the land. They were the farmers. And Sri Ramakrishna knew that because of the tremendous hard work in those families, they tend that throughout the day after the hard work, they tend to have a little of alcohol, wine or something like that. So, and that's something like it's in their blood, it's in their family. And Sri Ramakrishna knew that. Now, one day he asked Latu Maharaj that when you visit me, through which path, through which way do you come? And Latu Maharaj told that such and such way I follow. And Sri Ramakrishna knew that on that way there is a liquor shop. Sri Ramakrishna simply told him, avoid that road. See, this boy was very pure-minded. Though he belonged to such family, but he was very innocent. His mind was very pure. But Sri Ramakrishna most probably felt that because of that family influence, the tendencies may grow. He told, avoid that road, that you shouldn't come through that road. And to avoid that road, Latu Maharaj had to travel a few extra kilometers every day. But he had such a faith in the words of his master that he took the words literally and every day used to come through that. He used to just come through that route, through that long route, to avoid this road on which that liquor shop was there. So what it shows that our tendencies which are lurking behind may anytime spring upon us, may just simply pounce upon us just like a predator. The predator always pounces on the prey unnoticingly. So they're always waiting, hidingly they're waiting. Like a predator, they can pounce anytime. So we have to be very cautious and to avoid these predators in the form of this sense attachment from a distance. So that's the thing which has been mentioned by the word ati durat, vishayan tyaj ati durat. And the things which we have to practice, tosha. Tosha is contentment. This is very important even in Yoga Sutra. When they speak of this, the eightfold path, the first is this, they have to renounce certain thing and they have to cultivate certain thing. The things which you have to cultivate, of that, one is santosha. The santosha is that, what is that? That's contentment. And there they give a very nice example that how the shoe was discovered. The king found that just by walking barefoot on the land, he gets hurt by thorns, by pebbles. So one day he ordered that cover the entire land with leather. And then the intelligent minister suggested that, "O king, why to cover the entire land with leather? Why not you just cover your own feet with this leather?" And that's how the shoe was invented. That's the idea. What's the idea? That if we think of enjoyment by satiation of our sense pleasures, there's no limit to it. It goes on and on. It has been equated, it has been compared with the fire. The fire is called anala. In Sanskrit, anala means that which can never be satiated. Alam, the word alam means satiation. In Sanskrit, alam means to get satisfied. An pratyay is added before the word alam, in the sense of negation, that which can never be satiated. The more you pour fuel in the fire, the more it flares up. The senses are like that. We can never satiate our senses through enjoyment. We have to develop a sense of contentment, that I am happy with what I have. Seek not, avoid not. As Swami used to say, that neither to avoid the responsibilities of our life, not to go on seeking for the higher and higher pleasures of life. This sometimes why avoiding has also been asked by Swamiji as a quality, that why should we not avoid? Because sometimes in our urge to avoid, actually we are resorting to our comfort zone. We are resorting to our security zone. So that is also a type of seeking. So avoid not, seek not. In whatever position in life, in whatever circumstance in life we have been placed, let us be satisfied with it and try to lead our life with a sense of satisfaction. And that's what is meant with the word contentment, santosha. That we always have to be content. Daya, because this speaks of, all these qualities will speak of calmness. If I am practicing contentment, automatically my mind will be calm. Otherwise, constantly I will be expecting. Constantly I will be thinking of the changing of the circumstances. That we should know that in this life, that whenever there is some problem, of course, we should think of changing the circumstances. But we will find in 99% of the cases, the circumstances can never be changed. It is something as it is. And then, unless we develop the capacity of forbearance, it is we who will be destroying ourselves. That if we develop the sense of contentment, then the external circumstances is not going to affect me. That story which we have related in previously in some other context, that will explain what contentment is. That a man who was highly dissatisfied by his life, he thought everyone has betrayed him, went to a monk who was a hermit. He was living in a small hermitage. And when he went to that hermit and related all his sufferings, the hermit never replied anything. He just took him to the backyard of his hermitage. And the backyard, the fencing of the backyard was with the maple trees. The maple trees were there, on which the barbed wire was nailed. And that's how the fencing was made. Now he took him to one of the trees, which was extremely curved. Many curves were there. And now this hermit told, see, when I purchased this property, these maple trees were young. They were already planted. And the previous owner thought of using those trees, young trees, as the stump, and he nailed the barbed wire on it. Now this tree was constantly revolting, that why it should be nailed on me. In the entire process of his growth, it was constantly struggling to get rid of that circumstances. And that has resulted in this curved growth, so many curvatures. And then he took him to another tree where he found that this barbed wire has went through the core of the trunk and the tree has grown straight. And then he told, see, this tree, realize the fact that it is going to be with me. I cannot get rid of it. It is going to be with me. I don't have the capacity to get rid of it. So I accept it. It has gone through the core of its trunk, but it in no way could disturb its growth. It has gone straight. So the circumstances of life, in most of the cases, we will find we cannot change. But by how we react to it, on that depends our calmness of mind, our integrity. And that speaks of santosha. So there is a saying that in most of the cases in our life, that we are most probably being fried in some frying pan, as if we are being getting fried in the frying pan, and think of jumping out of that frying pan, and we go and fall in the oven itself. So you'll find by trying to change the circumstances, we have made the situations more complicated. In our life, we will find that family disputes, everywhere you will find that in most of the family disputes, you will find that in the way of finding some easy solution, we go on making some more complicated things more complicated. In so many cases we'll find. So what it speaks of, that unless we know that it is not the external circumstances that is the cause of my suffering. The cause of the suffering is how I react to the circumstances. That brings the suffering. So knowing that, if we can develop this practice of contentment, then only I can practice that calmness of the mind. The entire spirituality is nothing but the practice of the calmness of the mind, to keep the mind unperturbed in all situations, detached in all circumstances. And that speaks of contentment. And then comes daya. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we will find in one place, Sri Ramakrishna is differentiating between two words, daya and maya. He's saying the love for one's kith and kin, that is maya, that binds us. And what is daya? Love for all beings, where we go beyond our genetical programming, that beyond our our biological relations, and we can express our empathy for all. That is daya. That speaks of going beyond our mamatva, going beyond our asmita, ahamta, mamta, that me and mine. Our entire life encircles between me and mine. To go beyond that, that is daya. To love one's child, there's no credit in it. We are biologically programmed in such a way that a mother is bound to love its child. Have you seen any animal where the mother doesn't love the child? What's the credit in it? But to go beyond the biological relation and that extend your love for all beings, that is the uniqueness which as a human being we have. And the more we culture that, that speaks of our spirituality. That Sri Ramakrishna, we find that why it speaks of spirituality? That when someone asks Sri Ramakrishna, when shall I be free? Sri Ramakrishna's answer was, when I cease to be. This I, this limited sense of individuality, that's the cause of our bondage. The more we go beyond that, the more we can diffuse our individuality in all beings, the more we are liberated. So that's the more the localized consciousness become non-local, the more it speaks of our liberation. So that speaks of daya, where you go, where love is not restricted just to me and mine. It goes beyond all the boundaries. You feel empathy for all beings. We find very nice, interesting episode in the life of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, as a wandering monk, when he was going around the various places of India, by chance he met another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna who also was wandering. He was Swami Turiyananda. And Swami Turiyananda asked Naren, the Swami Vivekananda, that we both are wandering. After a long time, accidentally we met. And naturally, the question comes that as a wandering monk, we are wondering, have we made any spiritual progress? So Turiyananda asked Swami Vivekananda, well, Brother Naren, do you think you have progressed spiritually? And Vivekananda's answer was very significant. He told, oh, Hari Bhai, this Turiyananda's nickname was Hari. So, oh, Hari Bhai, I understand nothing of your so-called conventional spirituality. But one thing I understand, that my heart has expanded. It fills for other beings. So this alone, know it for certain, is this sign of spirituality. That I understand nothing of your conventional spirituality. That spirituality, we think that going to samadhi, meditation, yes, they of course, they are the sign of spirituality. But it all starts with this, with the diffusion of the ego. The ego starts falling off. Your ego barrier starts falling off. The more you relate with others through empathy. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very nicely, that this ego is just like the wall of a pitcher. If you just immerse a pitcher in the ocean water is undifferentiated. The moment you immerse a pitcher in the ocean, a little amount of the ocean water enters into the pitcher's water, and now you say this is the pitcher's water, the same water. And this wall is there to barricade the entire ocean from the water which is within the pitcher. And the waves in the ocean no more disturbs the water which is inside the pitcher because of this barrier. That's like the ego. The more that barrier is dissolved, the more you will find that the waves outside is affecting the water inside. If it is made of a thin membrane, you will find that the water gets disturbed by the external water. So what it speaks, the more the ego barrier falls off, the more you will find empathy is welling from your heart. It's not something which has to be cultivated. It is already there. It is only the ego which restricts us. So the first sign of spirituality is how much more empathetic you are becoming. And that's the thing which has been spoken of as daya. So you will find in small children how easily they relate to each other's emotion. The children are playing, one falls down and gets hurt and starts crying, the other starts crying. Very easily they relate to their emotions. Why? Because their ego barrier is very thin. Once they start growing, the more the ego barrier becomes thickened, the more we become hard-hearted. We don't feel compassion towards others. Compassion becomes a duty. Someone is suffering, it becomes my duty to show compassion, but it doesn't come up from my heart. Why? Because of that strong ego barrier. The more the ego barrier falls off, the more we can relate to the word for empathy, and that has been spoken of as daya. And kshama. Kshama is that rage we feel whenever my interest gets hurt. Anyway, any form, my desires, my interest, the rage. But we forget that rage as far as spiritual journey is concerned, that rage is like the rust that erodes our well-being. When you are angry with someone, how much it harms the other person, we don't know. But it harms me, that we understand. If I am habitually angry person, I know it can be the cause of my blood pressure, of all the diseases, lifestyle diseases, can come just from that anger. If one is habitually angry, it speaks of the turbulence of our mind. So we have to practice forgiveness, and this practicing of forgiveness, ahimsa, is not just towards others. It is also towards oneself. That don't harm yourself. And that speaks of kshama. That in any situation, once if I can forgive, I am at peace with myself. Unnecessarily, I did not disturb my own mental peace, and as well as the peace of the world. That's why kshama is important. If we judge our own life, we will find how difficult it is to change our nature. I cannot change my nature. I am so lenient towards my nature. If anyone says, why are you doing this? Oh, well, what can I do? That is my nature. I take it for granted that my nature cannot be changed. I am like that. What can I do? But we always expect others should change. I cannot change myself, but I want others to change. How is it possible? That's why Holy Mother's last message was very interesting. That if you want peace of mind, don't find fault with others. Find fault with yourself. Know the world to be your own. No one is a stranger, my child. What a wonderful message. Plain words. The last message of Holy Mother. And that speaks of kshama, not to see others' fault. You always tend to see others' fault. You know why? Because all the negativities which I have is by default in everyone. All the negativities which I have is as default in others. All the weaknesses. I don't see the goodness in others because the goodness is something which is unique. I have cultivated certain goodness, which is unique to me, which is not in you or in others. As a result, no one can relate to that. But everyone can easily relate to the others' weaknesses, others' shortcomings, and can easily get angry because that is by default within me. That's why Swamiji used to say a very nice thing, that if you find some fault in others, instead of blaming that person, you should blame yourself. That why do I see that fault? And he used to give a very simple example. He used to say, suppose a brick of gold is just lying on a table and some small child is crawling near it. And some stranger comes, picks it up, and runs away. The child never knows, will never know that a theft has happened. Someone has stolen, because there is no thief in the child. His mind is innocent. So he can never even realize that this was an act of theft. The moment I realize it is a theft, means the thief is already within me. So when I see something bad in others, I should blame myself that that fault must be in me. That's why I can relate. So these are the subtleties of spiritual life. The more I try to transform myself, not the world, that speaks of spirituality. So kshama, arjava, straightforwardness. It actually speaks of truthfulness. If you are truthful, then only you can be straightforward. And for truthfulness, we need courage, strength. The one who has strength alone can be truthful. That why the river gets its, the river's journey is never straight. There are lots of curves. Its journey is a crooked journey. Why? Because when the water is coming down from the mountains, the stream is coming down as it reaches the plain land. Now, there are some rocky terrains. The water always will be following the line of least resistance. Wherever it finds rocky terrain, it will immediately turn towards the soft soil. And that's how it develops all the curves. So in our life also, you ask any small child, do you want to be good? Or do you want to be a bad boy? Everyone immediately will say, no, I want to be good. No one wants to be bad. A small child, if you say that you are bad, immediately will say, no, I'm nice, I'm good. So this to be good, that goodness is something which we all want. Then what happens in the course of life? That we all develop all this crookedness because we do not have the strength to be truthful in the situations of life. Whenever we find there's some opposition, strong obstacle, immediately we tend to bend. And that's how we develop a lot of crookedness in our consciousness. So you will find arjava, straightforwardness, speaks of truthfulness. The one who is truthful, he alone can be straightforward. And that speaks of a clean heart. When Sri Ramakrishna, for the first time, he was just walking from Dakshineshwar to the BT road, the Barakpur trunk road. Even in Calcutta, still it's there. So in those days, that was considered to be quite wide. So this road was built in such a way that it is just a straight road, because it used to connect the barrack, the army barrack, with the Calcutta city. And as there was no residential area, when this barrack was built, the armor in the time of emergency has to be brought to the port, the Calcutta port, in the shortest possible time. And the shortest possible time, it is possible only when the distance is short. And the shortest distance between two locations is a straight line. And as there were no localities, so they built the road just a straight line in those days. It's a straight road, where if you go down the road for about 100 kilometers, it's a straight road. There's no curvature. So Swami Ramakrishna, for the first time, he was strolling down the Dakshineshwar and went near the BT road and saw the road. He went into samadhi. He was in a trance. And when he came down from the trance, what he related was something wonderful. He told, this road is just like the heart of a holy person. It is straight and wide. There is no crookedness and there is no narrowness, wide and straight. So that's what speaks of Arjava. That if you are strong, if you are always resorting to truthfulness, you are bound to be straightforward. So that's the quality which a spiritual seeker should have. And then the last two is Prashanti and Danti. Prashanti and Danti. Prashanti speaks of calmness of the mind, and Danti speaks of control of the senses. So Prashanti comes first. Unless we try to control the mind, we can never control the senses. That we hear that nowadays in modern psychology, they say you should not try to subjugate your senses, that it may result in various sorts of psychological problems. It's true that if we really try to subjugate our senses without subjugating our mind, calming down the mind, and the mind can be calmed down only when you relate to some spiritual dimension of our existence. Otherwise, from the worldly plane of that social expectation, the society wants me to behave this way, that's why I should behave that way. So the mind is saying, no, I want it, but the society doesn't want it. So I have to force myself. Then, of course, there's a question of psychological aberration, psychological some defects. But if from the spiritual dimension of existence, if I'm always aware of the fact that I'm not this body, not the mind, not the senses, I'm the self through eternity, I'm always fulfilled. There is no thing which can fulfill me. I'm always satisfied. I am the self. I am the eternal self, which is always fulfilled. You're from that dimension, when you're trying to control your mind, the mind can easily be calmed down. And then the controlling of the senses also becomes easy. So first comes calming of the mind by relating to the spiritual dimension of existence. And that way alone the mind, controlling of the mind is possible. And then comes naturally the control of the senses. So these are the qualities. The one who cultures, thinking them just with the nectar, and shuns the Vishaya, the sensate pleasures of life, for him only that moksha, the liberation, is possible. The one who is craving for liberation, he should shun. Even in the Upanishad, the same thing has been mentioned. Shreyascha preyascha manushyam tau samparitya vivinakti dhira. Shreya and prayer, the pleasurable and the preferable. Very interesting. The Swami Gambhirananda has translated the word Shreya and prayer as the preferable and the pleasurable. But most of the time, we confuse the pleasurable as the preferable. But the one who can discriminate between these two, that at every moment of our life, we are in the cross section of these two roads, Shreya and prayer. The one who is calm, who is dhira, he can distinguish between these two and renounce the prayer and resort to Shreya. So all these practices, which has been spoken of here as Tosha, Daya, Kshama, Arjava, Prashanti, Danti, they are the way towards the Shreya, towards the preferable, towards the thing which can lead us to that ultimate goal. Now the next verse says that the clinging to the body is like a spiritual suicide. What it says, 83rd verse, Anukshanam yat pariritya krityam anadi avidyakrita bandha mokshanam deha parartha ayang amushya poshane yah sajjate saswamanena hanti. So whoever lives aside what should always be attempted. Anukshanam yat pariritya krityam. The thing which has to be done, we renounce that. Then what happens? Anadi avidyakrita vandha mokshanam. So that's now, what is the thing which is which is kritya, which has to be done, but which we are renouncing. What is the thing? That is being indicated by the next phrase, anadi avidyakrita bandha mokshanam. That emancipation from the bondage of ignorance, which is without beginning. Avidya. From where it started, no one knows. Just when I'm in a dream and I suddenly wake up and then I realize I was dreaming. So there's an end to the dream. But if I ask you that when the dream started, can you ever say? You can never say when the dream started. So in that way, that ignorance, this life itself is a dream in spiritual sense. And we are already being deluded with the idea that I am this body-mind complex. So this dream is going on from when we don't know, but there is an end. So here it is saying anadi, but not anant, that it is not something which is ananta, that it is not unending. There is an end to it, but it has its beginning we never know. So that's why it's called anadi avidya krita bandha mokshanam. So this is the only thing which we have to do in our life, to get rid of this bondage of ignorance, which is without beginning. And if one leaves this aside and passionately seeks to nourish this body, deha parartha ayam amushya poshane. The one who is passionately seeking to nourish this body, deha. What is the nature of this deha? It is parartha. Constantly, it is meant for the enjoyment of others. I think this body is for my enjoyment, but actually, if you really try to find out, this body is actually meant for the enjoyment of others. In the olden days, of course, there were the predators waiting to pounce upon you. And now we think, who is going to enjoy my body? No one. But we forget. Just when the moment a person dies, what happens? It doesn't take even few just hours. The body starts decomposing. What it speaks of, there's constantly the predator in the form of small microbe is attacking our body because that's the food for them. So this body, the moment we take birth, this body which we think is going to give us enjoyment, actually by nature it is such. Constantly it is in the process of decay. Maybe it's a predator which can be seen, or it may be something which is not seen. That's why you have to go twice to the dentist every year. Constantly, the tooth decay, everything. You will find it is meant for the enjoyment of others. The thing, that's how the delusion. So these are the various paradigms through which Shankaracharya is trying to show that this body, which we value so much, does it deserve that much of value? It is parartha. It is meant for others' enjoyment. The moment you are born, this body is meant for others' enjoyment. Deha parartha. Ayam amushya poshane. But I go on just nurturing it, thinking it to be my existence. Yes sajjate saswam anena hanti. So the one who, just foregoing the practices which is meant for the emancipation from the bondage of ignorance, goes on passionately seeking to nourish this body, he is as if committing suicide. Commits suicide there, swam anena hanti. So this is the thing which Shankaracharya is mentioning in the 83rd verse. This anidya avidya kritavanda. What's the idea that just now we were speaking? That ignorance is beginningless. That we cannot trace its beginning in time, just the way we are experiencing in dream. And in a dream, that when it has started, we don't know. But we wake up and the dream ends. Similarly, this life is a long dream in spiritual sense. Emancipation means waking up from that dream. And then we find, oh, I was that eternal self. All this idea, this body-mind complex and its relation to the world, it was in a state of dream. I come out from the dream. When that dream started, I don't know. So I can come out of that. But for that, the first thing is I shouldn't be attached to the body. This deha parartha, it is meant for, as if the enjoyment of others. So whoever is deeply attached to taking care of such this body is verily committing suicide. Why? Because he is alienating himself. He forgets that he is the self and he is identifying with something which is not the self. That what is suicide? The suicide is that not realizing your potentiality is a suicide. That in the life, I had to realize certain potentiality. I bring to an end to it at certain point of time without realizing it. That is suicide. So in spiritual sense, we all are supposed to be identified with ourself, which is our real nature. And without realizing that, we get deviated. We go on thinking the body to be the self and go out with a sense of mamatva. This body is me, ahamta is this body is me, and mamata, its relations to its kith and kin, its friends, its relative, and its seeking of pleasures. So that is as good as committing suicide. So this is the thing that we will find Shankaracharya is trying to bring home to for taking us in our spiritual journey. So what's the next verse? There's the same idea is being reiterated again in the next verse. What he's saying? Sharira, 84th verse. Sharira poshanarthi san. Sharira poshanarthi san ya atmana didrikshati graham darudhiya dhritva nading tartung sagachati. So Shankaracharya is resorting to an example that what is seeking pleasures with the help of this body. Whoever seeks to realize the self by devoting himself to the nourishment of the body. That he wants to realize the self, but at the same time he is nourishing his body. It's like proceeding to cross a river by catching hold of a crocodile. Graham, by thinking it to be a log. A crocodile is floating and you think it is a piece of log and you go and get hold of it. What will happen? It will take you deep into the waters. It will strangle you, kill you. So there's same way. So here we will have to understand that nowadays yoga is equated with spirituality. Yes, yoga in a real sense is of course spirituality. But just practicing a few asanas, pranayama for long life, that is spiritual suicide. We identify ourselves with the body. If we say that as a person is living for 130 years, that means he is spiritual. It is spiritual suicide. It's not in any way have to do with spirituality. Then why this all this taking care of the health has been spoken of? That taking care of the health is not for my physical existence. That to realize myself through purity, patience, perseverance, it's a matter of time. So if I keep my health good, in good condition, I can go through that spiritual journey. It's just like the launching of a rocket. When the rocket is launched from the launching pad, the body is like the launching pad. It is just to eject the soul out of this body. That's its purpose. Once that is done, the body has no use. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take care of the body. We have to take care of the body because without the body, there cannot be any spiritual practices. As has been spoken of in our scriptures, Sharira Madhyam, Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. But all our spiritual practices are with the help of this body. But always in your mind, it should be there that I am taking care of the body not for the sake of the body, but to realize the self. A very nice example is given by Sri Ramakrishna. He says, a spiritual, a highly illumined soul committed suicide. And someone wanted the opinion of Sri Ramakrishna, whether it was correct or not. And Sri Ramakrishna gave a wonderful example. What he told, that there is a particular Ayurvedic medicine. It's called Makaradhvaja, which is life invigorating, a very strong medicine which invigorates your life, Makaradhvaja. But its preparation is quite assiduous. Various liquids are poured into a bottle and it is kept for some time for crystallizing, and then it crystallizes. Now, when it crystallizes, you cannot take out the crystallized medicine out of the bottle. The only way you can take out is to have to break the bottle, nothing else. Then only you can get that crystal out. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying that how long that bottle was needed, as long as the crystal didn't form. Once the crystal has been formed, the bottle has to be broken. There's no need of it. So Sri Ramakrishna told a very interesting thing, that's saint. He had already, the crystallization has happened for him. He has already realized the purpose of the life is to realize the self. He has done. Then what's the need of the body? It can remain, it can go. So that's not considered as suicide. So once you are realized, even in our scriptures, they have given that idea that you can leave your body. That euthanasia is prescribed in Vedanta only for the realized, not for your age. Only when you are realized soul, you can willingly give up your body. So this body's only purpose is to take you to that realization. Otherwise, in the words of Swami Vivekananda, a banyan tree sometimes lives for 5,000 years, but it is still a banyan tree, nothing else. It is just a banyan tree. There's no transformation has happened. So, Sharira Poshana, just for the sake of keeping the body nourished. How long? Maybe for for another 20 years, 30 years, but I cannot be eternal. Very nicely in Mahabharata, it has been told that throughout our life, we are actually playing a game of chess. And we know, and our opponent is Mahakala, the time. With him, we are playing chess. And we all know who is going to win. We know at last, it is a Mahakala. It is a time who is going to win. But still we go on playing. Why we play? Though we know that we are going to lose, but still we play. And then very nicely it has been mentioned, just to play a few more moves, nothing else. What's the use of that? Just to play a few more moves. Maybe in place of 50 years, I will be living for 100 years. But what's that unless getting this unique human birth in which we have the potentiality to realize ourselves? Without doing that, we leave our body just living few extra years. That's of no use. And that's being indicated in this verse. And that one who has overcome this infatuation of his body alone succeeds in setting his feet to the other shore of the worldly ocean. And that Shankaracharya will be speaking in the next two verses. We will just read those verses and go through the literal meaning. We will take up these verses in a more detailed way again in the next class. That's Moha Eva, 85th verse. Mahamrityu, Mumuksho Vapuradishu, Moho Vinirjito, Yena Sa Muktipada Arhati. So, for the seeker after liberation, the infatuation over the things like the body is this sheer death. Moha Eva Mahamrityu, it is death for a mumukshu, for an aspirant who is attached to his body. And Moho Vinirjito Yena. So, as a conclusion, he's saying this: the one who has gone beyond this delusion, he alone can deserve the state of liberation. Muktipada Arhati. So, Moha Jahi Mahamrityum Deha Dara Sutadishu Yang Jitva Munayo Yanti Tat Vishnu Paramang Padam. That's the 86th verse. That's conquered the death of infatuation over their body. Moha Jahi Mahamrityu. This moha is just like gray, it is like the death. Win over it. By how? By developing detachment from Deha, Dara, Sutadisha. From your body, from your relation. Dara is your wife, Sutadeshu, children. So this, your body, your attachment to the body speaks of ahamta, the sense of amness, that this is me. And my attachment towards a relation speaks of mamata. This ahamta and mamata. These are the delusion. This world is just like a flow. That's why it's called samsara. Samsarate iti samsara. Everything is flowing. In this life, all our relations, is what like? In Bhagavatam, a very nice verse mentions that we are like pieces of corks, small piece of cork flowing down the stream. These corks, the pieces of corks are carried by the stream. Accidentally, two pieces of corks comes together, flows together for some time, and again gets separated. And we dream we are going to live 7 lives together. Is a time which is keep bringing us together and again taking us apart. We don't know who was our mother, father, wife, children in the previous birth, nothing. So this is life. And we say, cling to it. This is the thing this Shankaracharya is saying, and that is the moha. That is the cause of our great death. The one who has won over it. Munayo, and how to win over it? Who can win over it? The Muni. Manan Shila, the one who is contemplative, constantly discriminating between the self and the non-self, and after discriminating, is contemplating on the self. So he is the Muni, that's the Munaya. So this, who is always contemplating on the self and discriminating his existence from the non-self, he alone can develop the detachment for this Deha, Dara, Sutta. To his body and its relation to all the relations. All our relations are through this body. He can go beyond that and he can attain the state of Vishnu. Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. So Vishnu doesn't mean a particular personal God. The word Vishnu means which is all pervading. It means Brahman, the consciousness which at present is localized, becomes one with the non-local consciousness. And that's the state of liberation. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, a salt doll went to measure the depth of the ocean. The moment it touched the ocean, it became one with it. So this is the idea, to go beyond the sense of locality, to become one with Brahman. Vishnu and Brahma, both are synonymous. Vishnu means all pervading, and Brahma came from Brih Dhatu, which means Brihat. That Brihat means that which is again all pervading. Our sense that I am this localized consciousness is the illusion. When that breaks, you become one with that non-local consciousness, with that all pervading reality. And that's the state of Vishnu. And that's the Brahman with which you get identified. So once you go beyond this moha of this me and mine, you become one with that. And that's the thing which has been spoken of in the 86th verse. And then Shankaracharya will be giving a very detailed description of the gross body in the next 6 verses. That what's the nature of this gross body, how it comes, what this body consists of, what's the cause of it. So he will try to illumine us in the next 6 verses, which again we will take up in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.